Hello, one young word. I'm freezing right now.
So cold.
Okay. I fight for justice for children who are victims of violence. I'm from Liberia, where poverty, disease, and hunger are parts of daily lives, and children's rights are often violated. Liberia has the highest proportion of children missing out on primary school education, with nearly 2/3 never stepping inside a classroom, according to the United Nations. Into this war and between two brutal civil wars, I was born in Liberia's impoverished capital, Monrovia. During the first years of my life, my country ripped itself apart, both sides using child soldiers on an unprecedented scale. My father, while driving for a humanitarian relief organization, was murdered by rebel forces when I was just 5 years old. Growing up, my mother's siblings and I endured enormous pain and suffering. We could not afford to eat nor buy clothes to wear. My siblings all had to stay at home so my mother could afford to send me to school. I am the first college student in my family. I come from the West Point slum, a haven for sexual violence victims and former soldiers. In my community, it is not strange to us when a girl is raped and when a boy is sexually harassed. I repeat, it is not strange to us when a child is abused. We cannot rely on governments to uphold our human rights. Protest has been our answer. My hunger for justice was awakened at the age of 9 when a 13-year-old girl was sexually abused and brutally murdered by her foster parents. Outraged, I joined children and youth leaders in a protest demanding that the perpetrators be brought to trial. I am 19 years old now and perhaps the youngest delegate this year. For about 10 years, my friends and I have been organizing peaceful demonstrations for children's rights. We have had success. In 2012, Liberia became one of the first African countries to adopt comprehensive legislation for children, the Children's Law, integrating both the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the African Charter. Because of my instrumentality, that law was passed, but what remains a challenge is its implementation. In 2014, a 15-year-old boy was shot dead by the military during a peaceful protest in my community against blockades set up during the Ebola crisis. I organized a march to demand that the government takes responsibility for the killing. The march sparked a national debate, and because of the resilience of my fellow protesters, the government was forced to acknowledge its culpability. Also, I pushed for scholarships and school items to be provided for Ebola orphans, and that was done successfully. In the month of May this year, there were media reports of a lawmaker who raped and impregnated a 13-year-old girl. Moved by this horrible and very pathetic act, I organized a march to have the government launch an investigation. This lawmaker filed a lawsuit against me, and the government, through the magisterial court, ordered an arrest order for me. It was a scheme to have me abandon our quest for justice. Threats were made on my life and against my family. When the charges against me were dropped, we organized more protests. But still, justice has not been served, and the victim is now missing. 3 children are raped every day in Monrovia. In my community, I know at least 50 children who have been abused. They are my friends. They are my neighbors. Many victims do not dare report their cases for fear of being killed by their perpetrators or rejected by their families and communities. Around the globe, a child is killed by violence every 5 minutes. Today, I stand before you to underline the necessity to stand up and end violence against children. I am sending you an invitation. Remember, you were once children, and your graduation from that social status does not distinguish you from children. If you go to Syria today, the older generation has caused a chaos, and today we now have a lost generation. That is violence. If you go to Myanmar, Muslims are being killed in their numbers. We as young people, we have the power to change the narrative. We must play our role well. The world needs us than ever before. If you do not act now to save our world from the hands of older generation, we will have a future that is blurred. Thank you.
Good job, man. Good job.